knocked over during the storm, and the horse must have been near the lake because it had been electrocuted and killed. He said that it had died instantly beside that lake when the power went out hours ago. Next, number 6 now, we have the 7th barn. The story goes there was once a wealthy farmer who owned a lot of land in Ohio. He built a new barn on his property every time his wife had a baby. He named the barns after each of his children, and by the time the story takes place, and we're expecting number 7. However, the farmer's wife died in childbirth, and so did her unborn baby. The farmer went insane with grief and couldn't tend his farm. The family had no money, and the farm started going under. Then, on one night, in the depths of his madness and despair, the farmer took an axe and led his children out to the barns, where he murdered them one by one. He buried each of their bodies in the 6 barns that had been named after the murders. Then, the farmer had the 7th barn hung himself. As the story goes, all the barns were eventually torn down and the land was sold off, all except for the 7th barn. Nobody wanted to buy the land because of what happened there, so it was abandoned and soon fell into disrepair. They say if you go to that barn at night, you can see the ghost of the farmer hanging from the rafters, his body swinging back and forth in the wind, dwelling on his terrible crime for all eternity. No one was ever really sure where the 7th barn was located, although it's definitely in Ohio. Some say it was the Kranz farm in the Cuyahoga Valley, and others say it was at the top of the world in Northampton. In 1997, a local Ohio teacher claimed that, after a lot of research, he had finally managed to track down the real location of the infamous 7th barn. He said that none of the barns had actually ever been torn down. The land had just been divided up and sold off, and the barns had simply been incorporated into neighbouring farms. Moving on to number 5 now, we have The Figure. This one was submitted to ghostsandghouls.com by one of their readers. They said, I live in South Africa, and this is where my story takes place. Me and a friend of mine, whose name is Beren, were travelling through the countryside on our way to a small town called Delaryville. We were used to small towns and country areas as we grew up there. However, I had never experienced anything like this. As we were driving, bad luck struck us like a hot iron, and both tyres on the left side went flat. His car was a piece of junk. We were soon on the side of the road at 2 a.m. with only the full moon to light the area around us. There was no civilization nearby, only local farmhouses far away. So I decided to leave Beren with the car and walk on to find any entrance to a local farm. I walked for about 2/3 of a mile and at last found a gate. The gate was short and could easily be scaled. It was locked with a chain, but I still climbed over in desperation. I could see the house's light in the distance, so I walked along a gravel road towards it. As I kept walking towards the house, I heard a very loud boom. At first I thought it was cannon fire, but it couldn't be, as there are no military bases around the area. I only heard this once, but decided to move on. Now the skeptic would obviously have an explanation, and I'm not saying it was cannon fire, for it could have been something else, but it pretty much sounded like an old-type cannon. What could make a sound like that at 2 in the morning? Anyway, I continued. Now the countryside was a wide-open landscape. There were only fields of grass for miles and miles with little quantities of trees. So about 20 metres from the side of the gravel road, there stood a big tree. As I said, it was around 2 a.m. and only the moonlight was shining, but something stood underneath that tree. A dark figure was just standing there, facing me. It looked like a human figure, so I was immediately struck with fear. I thought there must be some explanation for whatever was standing there, so I kept walking. When I looked behind me again, it was gone. How could something that big disappear so fast? I immediately turned around and ran away, back towards the main road. I told Beren, but he never believed me. Later on, I found out there were skirmishes between the local farmers and the British Army in the Anglo-Boer War in that